Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCapped. My name is the King Live, and today we're going to be bringing you 5 tips to help you hit more headshots in Valorant. Headshot accuracy is one of the most important things in Valorant, since the majority of the game is based on being able to land that one-hit headshot, so we're going to be focusing on some of the things that play a major role in being able to land those shots in the first place. While doing my research for this video, I found that most guides talked about crosshair placement a bunch, and although crosshair placement is massively important when it comes to landing headshots, I really don't feel like that's what most players come to this video for. If you're unaware of what good crosshair placement is, we have plenty of guides on that, but for this video I want to cover many other factors that play into headshot percentage that guides just won't tell you about. So stick with us as we get started, but before we do, let's introduce our question of the day, which is, how do you prefer to do aim training in Valorant? Do you use the practice range, Kovacs, aim labs, deathmatch, or maybe even something else? I know some players like to warm up for Valorant on CS. I mean, everyone seems to have their different routines, so I want to know what yours are. Moving on to our very first tip though, we're going to be focusing on tilt. This is a very real problem for so many players, myself included. If you're a player who feels like they're just incredibly inconsistent, chances are you struggle with some level of tilt that may be affecting your aim. And if you're unfamiliar with what tilt is, basically it refers to a decline in your mental state as you start to lose games or make mistakes. The whole idea behind it is that basically you are losing or making mistakes, and you will begin to make more mistakes because of that. Now, although this affects mostly your mental state, something else that you'll start to notice when you're tilted is that you may start to land more body shots rather than headshots. I know this isn't a specific aim routine that is going to affect your aim, but it's important to recognize most players' aim isn't actually as bad as they think it is. There's a big difference between having bad aim and having inconsistent aim, and to become a more consistent player, tilt is something you're going to have to overcome eventually. So what is the best way to overcome tilt? Well, it's not something that's easy to do, but the answer is you're going to have to care less about the games that you play. A lot of people will recommend that you just take a break if you start tilting, which is definitely a great way to cool down when you notice yourself tilting, but it's more of a band-aid to the issue rather than a fix. It's sort of like saying, well, can't tilt if I don't play. The reason caring less about your games is what you want to do instead is because the less you care about the game, the less you're going to care when you lose. Now, this doesn't mean you should not want to win. It's okay to want to win the game. However, it's also important to recognize you're going to lose sometimes, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you're going to be paired with teammates that just don't work well together, and the game is just going to be unwinnable, and that is fine. Another important thing to recognize, specifically if you're playing at lower ranks and getting tilted by bad teammates, your teammates are low-ranked players. You may be able to climb to those higher ranks in the game, but those players in your game are bad players, and to expect them to play like good players is asking a lot. They are in the lower ranks for a reason. It can be tilting to think that they are the same rank as you, but there is no reason for getting upset at silver players for playing like silvers. Instead of letting unwinnable games tilt you, say GG, go next, and look forward to playing your next game. It's actually crazy how much your mental state can affect how you play the game, and chances are you don't need crazy aim training routines to help you land more headshots. You may just need to stop losing your mind every time you play a game. Before we move on to our next tip though, if you guys are serious about improving, be sure to head on over to SkillCapped.com and check out our hyper improvement system. We have up-to-date lineups, courses on how to improve with all characters, Smurf commentaries where a higher ranked player walks you through how to carry in your rank, and so much more. Come join over 500,000 satisfied members, improve that KDA, and get the rank you've always wanted at SkillCapped.com. Link in the description below. Moving on though, I know the last tip was something that focused a bit more on your mental than it did your actual physical aspect of aiming, so I'm going to provide you with an aim training routine that I learned from professional player Caboose, who's currently playing on the team Envy. This is a really awesome aim training routine that doesn't actually require you to download aim labs or Kovacs because it's all done directly in the practice range for Valorant. One of the greatest things about this routine is that it's not only going to help you increase your headshot percentage, but will also help you improve your movement as a player as well, which is likely another reason for you having a lower headshot percentage. To begin this routine, what you're going to want to do is go into the practice range, and first you're going to practice your tracking by just tracing a bot's head while you're walking around. You can attempt to transfer between the bots, but you're not going to want to be shooting anything yet. Just walk around and do this for a couple minutes. I remember Caboose recommended that you do this for around 15 minutes, but frankly this warm-up he said takes them about an hour, and I don't think every single player has that amount of time, so if you want to cut it down to 5 minutes, that's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously it won't be as effective, but I don't think most of you are trying to go pro. You're probably just looking looking for how to become more consistent, which this will be fine for. After you're done with the first part, what you're going to do is grab your rifle of choice. I personally like to use the Vandal, and then you're going to go pick a random spot around the room. What you're going to want to do is, while strafing, track that spot, and then as you counter strafe, attempt to flick to a bot's head. You'll repeat these steps, picking a different spot to track each time, and do this for a few minutes. This is going to help you get the timing down in your counter strafes, which is again going to be massive for improving your headshot percentage, as it's going to be difficult to land those headshots when your bullets are inaccurate in the first place. A lot of players who struggle with missing their shots don't even realize that the timing is off on their strafes, so their first shot isn't even accurate in the first place. After doing this part of the routine, the last thing you're going to do is go over to the front of the range and you're going to practice your headshots with the Sheriff or Ghost, or even a classic, honestly. Whichever gun you use the most on pistol rounds is probably the best, and you're just going to get used to the recoil patterns of these pistols, as a massive issue for a lot of players on pistol rounds is they're shooting way too fast. Once you have this routine down, you should start to feel a lot more comfortable with not only your ability to headshot targets, but also your movement and strafing in Valorant, which is why it's such a helpful routine. Remember though, it's important to switch up your routine from time to time, as getting too comfortable with the same routine can cause you to be a little bit complacent and stunt your growth as a player. Moving on to our third tip though, we're going to be focusing on yet another mental aspect of Valorant, which is similar to tilt but not quite the same thing. And that aspect is going to be for players who struggle with fatigue, which is incredibly common in so many players. Valorant is a game that requires you to be incredibly precise to win your games, and that's why the longer you play, the more difficult it's going to become for you to remain consistent. It's no wonder players will do their warm-up, play 3 games, and go from dropping 30 kills to barely being able to get 10. The reason you need to warm up in a game like Valorant is because you're only actually going to get so many engagements in one game. Since there's so much downtime within the rounds, and oftentimes you're challenged to make the safer decision rather than the most active decision, after playing 1 or 2 games, that time that you spent warming up will become less relevant. This is why it's important to play a deathmatch or 2 between your games and to make sure that you're feeling fresh as you roll into your next game. Otherwise, you're likely going to start to notice it becomes a little bit more difficult to land that headshot when you need to, specifically over those longer play sessions. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you're playing more games than you normally do, even if you're running deathmatches between them, your aim may start to struggle if you're playing for an abnormal amount of time. This is incredibly normal, your body just isn't conditioned for those longer play sessions. However, the more you do them, the easier they will become. Valorant can be an incredibly draining game, however, and if you start to notice you're playing worse after a few games, even just standing up for a few minutes to get your blood flowing can make a massive impact in your games. Similar to how we talked about dealing with tilt, it's not about telling you to just take a break. That's not going to tell you how to overcome fatigue, that's just telling you how to avoid the problem. Instead, what we're going to want to do is incorporate techniques into your play session to mix things up and make your gameplay more stimulating. Whether those things are just standing up every 30 minutes, playing a deathmatch between games, playing with your dog, or even working out after you've died in your rounds, there's lots of things that you can do to keep your brain active during rounds. These are the things that will improve your overall play, and in turn, it'll help you improve your headshot percentage as well. Moving on to our fourth tip though, which is the tried and true Sheriff deathmatch technique. This one is simple and effective. You're going to want to go into a deathmatch and only warm up with the Sheriff. This is one of the guns that is the most difficult to spam and heavily relies on your headshot accuracy to get kills, and that's why it's incredibly good for improving your headshot percentage. A lot of people may recommend that you use the Guardian instead. However, one massive issue I see with a lot of players who attempt to use the Guardian in deathmatch is that they tend to start to panic when they miss shots and will just spray at the enemy until they get the kill. Since the Guardian has a number of bullets and its body shots do a fair amount of damage, they are still able to get kills doing this, and it results in them hurting their own improvement in an attempt to get more kills. Your goal here isn't to get more kills or place higher on the leaderboard, it's to improve your headshot accuracy. It's not about killing your target, it's about landing clean headshots on them, and it may seem like these two things are the same thing, but they're really not. It's important that when you're practicing, you're doing it in a way that is productive, and that's why when you're going through this deathmatch, another thing you're really going to want to focus on is your crosshair placement. As we mentioned at the beginning, crosshair placement is by far one of the most important things in improving your headshot accuracy, and it's mentioned in every single guide for a reason. It really is that big of a deal. Because you're using a Sheriff, you won't have as easy of a time adjusting when your crosshair placement is off, and you will be punished harder for these mistakes. That is why the Sheriff in deathmatch is so good at improving your accuracy. It's incredibly hard, and because of that, you will be challenged a lot more than you would with a rifle. Similar to when we talked about Caboose's aim training routine, another thing you should be focusing on in this deathmatch is mastering your counter strafes. Deathmatch is a near perfect time to practice all of these things because it's a low stake game mode that will simulate many encounters in the game. Take advantage of this to improve your mechanics, and your headshot percentage will easily increase over time. Moving on though, the last tip we have for you to improve your headshot accuracy is to keep your settings, specifically your sensitivity, the same. A lot of players feel like their issue is their settings and are constantly switching up their crosshair, sensitivity, and sometimes even their resolution in an attempt to fix their aim. game. Now, there is nothing wrong with switching to something that feels more comfortable, but if you're switching things specifically because you feel like you're missing shots, you may be hurting yourself more than anything. As we talked about before, specifically with tilt and fatigue, there are a lot of reasons your aim could be off, and if you're constantly switching up your sensitivity, it's going to be making it really difficult for you to be consistent in your play. Maybe it helps you for one play session, but if you spent all of this time getting comfortable with one sensitivity, you're forcing your muscle memory to readjust to a completely new sense just because your aim was feeling off for a small amount of time. This tip comes specifically from Tenz, which may shock a lot of players since I know that he switches up his sensitivity a fair amount, but really the bottom line is there are a lot of players who play with high sensitivity and there are players that play with low sensitivity. At the end of the day, it's all preference.
If you've been trying to improve for months and you don't really see any progression, don't really change your settings at all, because I personally think that settings do not matter that much, and it's just staying on the same settings to be consistent. I've changed my sense a few times and it's screwed me over a few times, but I think consistency is key.
If you're suddenly losing more gunfights in Valorant, it's very unlikely that your sensitivity is the issue, and it's probably more worth your time to look into switching up your aim training routine or finding new ways to reset your mental when you're playing. When searching for that perfect sensitivity, just try to find something that feels comfortable for you and stick with it. And remember, if you want to win more gunfights, improve that KDA, and get the rank that you've always wanted, then be sure to check out skillcapped.com. Link in the description below. Thank you all for watching. I hope this guide was helpful for you. At the end of the day, if you utilize these 5 things, I'm positive your headshot percentage will increase. I know mine really has. Specifically for me, I know that placing an emphasis on avoiding tilt is what wins me more games. I've gone on some pretty massive losing streaks when I'm tilting, but then when I have those days that I'm just deciding I'm going to relax and play the game, I'll win almost every game. Your mental really plays a huge role in this game, and I think it's something so many players don't seem to realize, but let me know what you guys think of this guide in the comments below, and don't forget to answer our question of the day, which is, what is your favorite way to warm up in Valorant? I personally do all of my warm-ups in the practice range, but I know a lot of people use Kovacs and aim labs, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel down below so you can be up to date with all of our latest videos. And as always, I am the King Live, and we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.